You are the 1%. I am the 1%. You own slaves. Do you live with your parents because of crippling student debt? You are the 1%. Don't know where the next check is coming from, keeping yourself warm with a hot water bottle. You are the 1%. You, living off of those value cans of tomatoes. You're the 1%. We are the 1%. And we have a parasitic relationship with the global 99% via modern slavery. How many slaves do you own?
My name is Blindboy Boat Club, and I'm a communist leprechaun. We're in the middle of a digital revolution with consequences we could never predict. Jobs, housing, mental health, human rights. We appear to be worse off than previous generations. In this series, we look at how the feckin' internet is fucking up the world and the pricks who are taking advantage of it. Slavery is happening in Britain right now. This is a bleak reality. The internet has made slavery invisible, while it happens all around us. You and I, without even trying, own slaves. We're gonna show how sex trafficking happens on streets just like yours. We'll go undercover in car parks up and down the country where gangmasters use traffic workers to toil in illegal construction sites.
You've got to be working 7 days, long hours.
And we'll visit the near-future dystopia that is post-Brexit Britain. Over here is the house of former Coldplay member Chris Martin. Chris, come out! Your time has come! Here, what are you growling on about this week? Oh no, it's my landlord, the trout of no crack. He's a bastard. What scam are you running on the British public this week? I am investigating modern slavery. What? Modern slavery. Best of luck with that. No jokes this week, no? No passive-aggressive jibes.
Do you know what I'm gonna do now? I'm gonna rack out a big fat line of not talking about modern slavery. Enjoy being cancelled, you fucking fraud! Ah!
No. When you hear slavery, you probably think of the transatlantic slave trade, which was people cruelly uprooted from their homes in West Africa, not even treated as human, and worst of all, it was legal. Modern slavery is different. People who are trapped by physical and emotional abuse or debt are coerced into having their labour exploited. It isn't legal, but it might as well be because no one's doing anything about it. It's happening right here, right now.
There are tens of thousands of slaves in the UK. They are in the town where you live. They are probably in the road where you live. Lancashire is a trafficking hotspot. I met with the chair of the anti-slavery partnership, Sean Hall, a former head of the police's modern slavery unit, to visit places that slavery had occurred. I know I look all cool and gritty with my hood up, but it was just really cold in January. I'll be honest with you, there's not a lot of humorous japes in the next few minutes.
So we're in Nelson in Lancashire, so we've come to Burnley. So we're in Blackburn now.
So why have you taken me here, Sean?
The story is a couple who were effectively homeless were taken in by a guy who lives near here. They were held in what can only be described as a shed, where they were forced to work sometimes as long as 17 hours in a day. They were getting minimal money, £4 a day. They felt that they were under threat if they left.
So we're in a new location now, Sean, in just a regular housing estate.
You know, it's a case of domestic servitude. It was a wife in an arranged marriage, quickly found out that she'd been tricked, and when she arrived in the UK, she was forced to do lots and lots of manual work. When she didn't do as she was told, she was threatened, and a couple of times she was actually physically assaulted.
Was she contacting home?
No, and that was part of the other thing. They were controlling. She wasn't allowed a telephone. She wasn't allowed to ring her family back home. So, you know, very quickly you can find yourself trapped in a horrible situation. What we're looking at here is what we call pop-up brothels. You've got this cheap accommodation where you can do short-term renting, sometimes no questions asked.
Airbnb and sites like this must make it really easy for people to just rent somewhere, use it, and then fuck off.
We noticed quite a few Romanian organised crime gangs bringing in girls and putting them into cheap rented properties, advertising them on some well-known websites, and then obviously exploiting them for sex. You know, if the authorities show any interest, they can very quickly move and then pop up somewhere else.
How does it happen whereby they would find themselves indentured in sex work?
We've seen people being promised legitimate work, you know, cleaning, that type of thing. And then when they arrive in the UK, they're then physically forced into the sex industry. And we did an arrest at the house nearby to where we stood. And there was one girl in the house. She'd been sold into the sex industry. But then she'd been trafficked across Europe. She was really vague about where she'd been. She talks about a case where she was stood present while two different traffickers were bartering over her, and she was sold basically for the price of an iPhone. And it wasn't even a brand new iPhone, it was an old cracked iPhone. So when we brought her out to the house, she didn't even have enough personal belongings to fill a carrier bag. We showed her a map to say, you know, do you know where you are? She hadn't a clue.
Oh my God.
So again, all that control.
Completely controlled in every respect.
Absolutely.
How easy is it to find slaves in Britain? Well, we ordered one on our phone.
Hello, how are you? You okay?
Yes, like everything else, there's a fucking app for that. Viva Street and Adult Work are sites where sex workers advertise. Many of them say sites like these make them safer, enabling them to move off streets away from pimps and to screen customers more effectively. But like so many things on the internet, there is a dark side. It often hides sex trafficking in plain sight.
Why can't we just try and take the good parts of the internet and get rid of the bad parts? Like, provide a safe place for sex workers, but pre-screen the ads to remove the ones that are sex trafficking.
Well, they could, but that would cost some of their delicious money, so fuck that. Wishing we'd listened to the BBC and made this episode about pets that had gone viral, we decided to find out more. Sean told us the indicators to watch out for. The escort would have no name or a generic name. Their ethnicity would be other. The same advert would be popping up everywhere. They'd be in areas with cheap rent and their rates would be really low. There were tons of these ads. We sent in an undercover reporter posing as a customer to see if there were further signs of trafficking. He was to pay the woman, look around and say that he'd changed his mind.
Hello, how are you? You okay? I'm fine, how are you? You okay?
From the moment he walked in, the indicators of trafficking were everywhere. The house was clearly a rental, and the woman seemed exhausted and nervous.
Half an hour is half an hour. Is half an hour okay?
It's just a bare bed covered with a dirty blanket.
65. Where are you from?
Yeah. Okay, 1 second, okay?
Okay, sure. Okay, sure.
And then a clear sign. She leaves the room as soon as a reporter gave her money. This usually happens when their trafficker is in another part of the house. The room was bare, obviously only used for sex. The rest of the house was the same. And then, when we were watching the footage back, something a reporter didn't notice at the time. There was a lock, a homemade lock on the outside of the door. We all know what that implies. The reporter had seen enough.
Changed my mind, I'm going to go. I'm going to leave.
Go.
Yeah, I've changed my mind, sorry.
It's pay money now.
Yeah, it's okay, you keep.
Fine, sweet. You go.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but the sense of relief when this woman realised she didn't have to have sex was utterly heartbreaking. The police did a welfare check soon afterwards. The woman was gone, and there was a family living there.
So, slavery could be happening on any street, any house, big or small. Slavery could be happening there. Slavery could be happening there, could be happening there, could be happening there. And because of, like, austerity and universal credit and all the other cool ways that the governments have figured out how to fuck the poor, British people are more likely to be slaves here now than any other nationality. Not that that should matter at all. We're all human beings, but it's just... We're gonna need a lot of animal names to make people feel better. The
transatlantic slave trade didn't even view the Africans who were enslaved as human.
Tell them how the first slaves that were sent to America weren't from Africa, they were Irish.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. I read it on YouTube.
No. Irish people were transported to the same Caribbean plantations as slaves, but we were able to work to buy our
The
freedom.
Irish got their freedom because we worked hard and we didn't complain.
That's a racist lie. The Brits made us indentured servants, not chattel slaves.
Same thing.
The narrative that you're pushing is being used by American racists to silence the voices of black people.
You sound like a woman. And you're making excuses for the fucking Brits again. They came over here with rusty swords and they forced us to travel to the Caribbean on ships made out of coffins.
I'm just saying that Africans had it worse.
I hope you enjoy your BBC money, because you're a traitor to your country. Enjoy being a shield for the Conservative Party, you left-wing cultural Marxist George Soros-funded Western-hating kirk.
None of that makes sense.
Fascist!
You think slavery is a thing of the past, but you own slaves. I own slaves too. Let's find out how many slaves we own.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of our next spectacular, a fellow in the Africa department at SOAS, visual sociology researcher at Goldsmiths, and author of the book Don't Touch My Hair, and a bleeding legend from Dublin, Ireland, Miss Emma DeBeery.
What a time to be alive. 40 million slaves, 150 billion profits. More slaves than at the height of the transatlantic slave trade. High five, Liverpool.
All right, kids.
And here in Britain, all through the streets of Twitter and Instagram, we all know it's got nothing to do with us because we're all totally ethical and our social media imprint reflects that. So, you know what that means.
Welcome to the completely ethical, all-organic, vegan-friendly, SJW virtue-signaling
Modern Slavery Game Show. Let's meet our contestants.
Hi, I'm Atticus. I'm 22, 21 by the Julian calendar, and likes recreating the drinks of extinct Celtic tribes, dislikes inequality and running out of trust fund money.
Hi, I'm Jemima. I'm 24 and I absolutely love sustainability, social justice and judging people on Twitter.
The rules are simple. Two people who believe they're living their best lives go through the day being virtuous, and we see who has the most slaves.
Let's kick things off in the AM. Atticus pulls on his favourite handwritten homemade woke t-shirt.
And the scoring has begun.
Yeah, cheap cotton has a huge amount of both child and forced labour. That's a double slave score.
Meanwhile, Jemima starts the day with some mindfulness.
Alexa, play whale song with your consent.
Playing whale song.
Alexa, explain slavery in the supply chain.
Our favourite giant corporations would never tolerate modern slavery. They get Foxconn to make everything for them instead. The world's biggest tech manufacturer. They've been linked with forced 100-hour work weeks, suicides and abuse, including making school kids work through the night to build Amazon Echoes. Yeah. Alexa, lock the factory doors to force the children to make more Alexas.
Locking factory doors.
And at the end of round one, Atticus is off the mark with 2 modern slaves. But thanks to the horrific tech supply chain, Jemima is streaking ahead with 8 modern and child slaves. Instagram that.
Time for round 2.
It's round 2. Let's live our best lives while destroying the lives of others. Atticus saves the planet and turns it to a cloud of toxic smog by recycling.
Uh-oh.
Police raids on an English recycling centre found a dozen men working for £1 an hour, suffering from broken shoulders, malnutrition and alcohol dependency, which was encouraged by their captors as a means of control.
Back at home, Jemima is baking some gluten-free rye flour sourdough muffins.
Come on, kids. Am I having a stroke?
You said the magic word. Kids!
Bringing a child into the first world guarantees a beautiful future for people forced into slavery to meet little Quinton's needs. Toys, fireworks, Christmas decorations, school uniforms, all have involved modern and child slavery. And if he eats his 5 a day, Tesco and Asda have accidentally bought vegetables from a firm that had slaves on one of their farms. But we can't see those people, so who cares? At the end of round 2, thanks to Jemima's perfectly understandable desire to have a child, even if she did call him Quinton, she rockets even further into the lead.
Now, you can't fight for social justice 24 hours a day. That would be ridiculous.
Jemima casts off the shackles and gets ready for a party with some vintage jewels and a nice bit of slack.
Ooh, well done, Jemima. That's a triple slave score.
Diamonds. Well, they're called blood diamonds for a reason. Gold. It makes a statement. The statement is that you like child labor. And that shimmer in your makeup? That's mica. A quarter of the world's supply features child exploitation. Clarins, Chanel, Revlon, Max Factor are all in the Responsible Mica Initiative, which is committed to end child labor by 2022. Ethical. In the future! Now, it's party time in Wokeville. It's time for the speed round. Atticus welcomes Jemima and their friends Syracuse and Sandwich to his super woke party. I can smell the fucking ukuleles from here. Let's smoke weed, play buckaroo, and do coke. Forced labor in grow houses up and down Britain. Nice ad. Buckaroo was packaged by women in a convent from Magdalene Laundries, where babies were stolen, sometimes sold, and the mothers were imprisoned. But don't worry, the manufacturer said it didn't know this was happening, and it stopped in 2012. And we all know how ethically Coke is made. And that's the final round.
And that's it for the completely ethical, all-organic, vegan-friendly, SJW, virtue-signalling, modern slavery game show, where the first world always wins and everybody else loses.
There's nothing funny about slavery, but I'm Irish, so there's many funny things about Brexit. Here's some jokes.
This is all a bit bleak, so as we were travelling around, we decided to cheer ourselves up with a tour of post-Brexit Britain, the art.
I'm here in Liverpool Street Station a few months after a very successful Brexit. High King of Britain Boris Johnson is selling rats out of a hat. Jeremy Corbyn has been vaporised and turned into Bitcoin. And Costa Coffee has been replaced by a new brand, Fuck Poland. Do it like an E17 video. You move around, okay? And then they play music over it.
Do I look cool? Do I look like a hunk if my ma sees it?
Yeah? I am here in glorious Sheffield, standing beside the Crucible, a once famous and iconic den of snooker. Unfortunately now, the chalk for snooker comes from a quarry in Lyon, in France. The ash that makes the cues comes from Denmark. Snooker is now gone from Sheffield, and the men who used to play snooker
are hiding out in the Peak District, dodging magnetic raccoons.
Brexit! I'm here in 2025. Behind me is the British Museum. They had to sell everything they stole. Over here is the house of former Coldplay member Chris Martin. He doesn't make radio-friendly pop songs anymore. He makes a living killing otters and selling them to his Spaniard boss. Chris! Chris! Come out! Your time has come! Brexit is forecast to lead to more slavery because gangmasters will smuggle in people who'll do the jobs that we won't. Disaster capitalism.
The UK prides itself on being business-friendly. It has some of the lightest employment regulations in the developed world.
Oh, look at all that nasty red tape. No, thank you, sir. This is Britain, champion of the businessmen. No need for all that red tape. No, sir. A spit and a handshake is all we need. Then off to the pub for a pint of bitter and 20 fags. And a lifelong friendship that's never acknowledged because we have an inability to express our emotions. Because we are decent, honest Brits. Britain!
Less red tape means less rules. Less rules means more abuse. More abuse means more slaves. All right? Good one.
What else does Britain do? It builds castles in the sky, and those castles are built using slaves. More than 10,000, typically from poor areas of Romania and Albania, promised a better life by gangmasters. They find themselves in the UK penniless and under the control of exploitative, shitty humans.
But hold on. The edgy centrist dads and the alt-right shitlords say that they chose to come here, that it's their fault. Firstly, fuck you. Secondly, I'm just an agent of a presenter. What do I know? Let's ask someone with some actual lived experience.
This is Alex. When communism collapsed in Romania, he lost his job and became a slave in Britain. Free markets for the win.
How did you end up here, Alex?
After I graduated from vocational college, I worked in a factory for 2 years. But then the revolution happened and the system fell apart. After I got married, I got an offer to come and work here. I was told I would make £20 a day, which is $1 million lei, a huge amount in Romania. I'd be able to support my family.
What happened when they brought you over here?
They put us into a house, 4 to each room. It was horrible. The beds would break. We would sometimes have to sleep on the floor. I would often have to work 19-hour days, from 6 a.m. to 1 in the morning, separating rocks on a conveyor belt. For 2.5 months, they didn't pay me a penny.
This isn't just happening in remote areas.
Ever go to your local DIY megastore for a new toilet brush and wonder why there are groups of lads hanging around outside in the cold? We're not queuing for half-price decking. All over Britain, gangmasters keep trafficked men in horrible conditions, then bring them to these car parks for auctions, where asshole construction companies illegally hire whoever will work for the lowest price.
The men work obscene hours on dangerous sites.
The construction companies get cheap labour.
The gangmasters collect the cash. Everyone wins, except those poor bastards.
We sent our Romanian reporter Matai to beautiful Barking in East London to impersonate a newly arrived Romanian looking for work. We wanted to see what it was like.
Guess what? It was shite.
We approached a group of friendly neighbourhood gangmasters. We suggested 80 quid for 12 hours, below minimum wage. The gangmaster's reaction was calm, rational, and not like a gaggle of pricks at all. 25 quid is what we were worth. What a fine group of gentlemen. And then the Irish show. A couple of workers get in while the others try and stop them. Oh, Paddy, up to his old tricks. Tore a load of fuck off. The thing is, though, they're not illegal. They're from Romania. Totally fine to work here. Matai has a job offer.
How much money? 50 for the full day?
50 quid, a fair crack less than London minimum wage.
Okay.
So what dodgy hellhole was he working on? Well, look at that. A nice house on a nice road. Nice place. Can't be that bad, can it? "15 minutes in and our journalist was already regretting leaving that job writing shit articles for click sites. No safety gear, and that's a 70-pound bag of rocks, cuz. Lift it with your back and not your knees. Hard work. But could we make it any more dangerous? Yes, we can. Power tools. Do you not need goggles for the massive shower of sparks, no? He can't hear me because he has no ear protection either. And I'm not sure that those Primark shoes offer any protection from the massive angle grinder 3 inches from his toes. Wondering if the ringing in his ears was permanent as chunks of concrete flung past his head.
Fucking hell.
Our journalist finally decided to ask for some safety gear.
Will you bring us helmets? Hard hat?
No, we don't need it.
No?
You want to wear it?
I don't know.
We don't need even boots, no?
No?
No.
Okay. Oh, whatever you say. I don't know.
Do not get smart with a man who's digging a grave. Eventually they hit bedrock and they couldn't dig any further. But what if your day isn't shortened by hitting solid rock? We went back to see it from the other side. Posing as an exploitative builder, our undercover reporter wanted to see how many hours a day these men would work for.
So we need some guys. We're manning up on 2 jobs, and I need someone that can sort people out. You've got to be working like 7 days, long hours, Have you got guys?
7 zile, să muncește mult, 7 zile.
I need reliable people, not no funny business. But on the price, what is the lowest we can do?
70 minimum.
All right, but 7 days?
Yeah.
And long days?
Yeah. 15 hours inside.
Well, that's it. We need hard workers.
Yeah.
All right.
$4.50 an hour.
Thank you.
Barely half minimum wage. And then when they're ripped off, they're afraid to call the police. But they're not illegal, and Britain has 1 million unfilled jobs. But these men can't take them because they're being controlled.
They threatened my family. They said they would destroy my family. There is no place for me back in my home country. My mother passed away and I didn't even go home because I was afraid they might follow me and hurt my family.
Was there anybody there for you to ask for help?
There was no escape for me. I had no help from anywhere.
What would you say to a person who said, you chose to come here, therefore it's not their problem?
I have children and I wouldn't want my own child to go through what I've been through, or anyone else's child. We are human beings, and that is what we should be called. Not slaves, human beings.
The most jarring thing for us, and you can't see it because we have to blur their faces, it's how polite, how broken these men were to any prick who give them work. No matter how they were spoken to or what abusive or unfair shite they were offered.
Man, this is happening outside B&Q's, Bottle Banks and Benson for beds. What has happened to make this normal? This is grand. Sure, it doesn't matter. They're not one of us. Look at their clothes. They're somehow less human. These poor fuckers, most of them will never get help. We'll say words, but no one really gives a shit, do they? We'll just let all this happen and carry on with our own stressful lives, because that's all we can do, isn't it? Keep on keeping on. This is grand. Drive my own problems, buddy. Didn't they choose to come here? Just keep throwing up those houses and no one say a fucking word. Us? Racists? Nah, we're multicultural. This is grand. Her? She's just a prostitute. She's not real. She's not our problem. Sure, didn't she choose to come here? Sold for the price of a mobile phone. Look at where they come from. They're used to that over there, what? Them? That's grand. They're just picking cockles. They like it. It's in their culture. Sure, wouldn't I kill for a job in the fresh air by the sea? They're not really people. They're just meat. It's grand.
Glory holing is a sexual act where a man places his penis through a hole in a wall. The penis then enters an orifice on the other side that he cannot see. He then fucks it. It became popular in petrol stations for men to have sex with other men. It allows the men to pretend they don't know what they are fucking, so they can fake innocence with their partners, the police, or themselves. The global supply chain is similar. It lets multinationals fuck the global south and pretend they didn't know anything about it. Every piece of technology we have has a supply chain that spans dozens of countries and hundreds of companies. There's no such thing as an ethical phone. The one in your hand isn't built by the giant corporation whose logo is on it. It's built by another company who sourced their chips from another company, who sourced their refined materials from another company, who get their raw materials from another company, who pay gangmasters to pay or force people to drag them out of the ground. Those global giants don't know what the other companies do. All they want are to make their phones cheap and reliable. So they stick their dick through the global supply chain and fuck something for as little money as possible. And the thing they fuck are the people all the way at the bottom of the supply chain. People forced to work 100-hour weeks in China, or slave in child labour for coltan, or cobalt, or tungsten, or the 100 other things we need for these devices. The device I'm typing this on right now. And it's not just phones, it's chocolates, it's cosmetics, it's clothes, fisheries, foods. The global supply chain means that any brand can use slave labour and then claim it knows nothing about it. And so it's in everything we touch. The world is a cold, ceramic urinal.
London, London, London. The big salty dinner, the fizzy bin bag, Judi Dench's bent rain, the sweaty bum, Admiral Nelson's syphilitic taint. We are here. Let's get fucked. London may look like the poster child for multicultural corporate wokeness, but it's actually a giant monument to slavery. Oh, I'm forever blowing bubbles. I'm navigating a jacuzzi boat around Canary Wharf. This particular vessel is designed for stag parties and coked up bankers. Because the shit that I'm talking about is so utterly irrational, what else am I supposed to do? Canary Wharf is the historical anus of British colonialism. All the resources were stripped from the West Indies, India, Africa, Ireland, and they were shat out here. And feels good today just to be an Irishman floating around in my jacuzzi boat in the middle of it. How are you, sir? Are you a banker? Good banking. I want to be covered in the spit of English bankers. That's my purpose in life. It's my fetish. I consent. The transatlantic slave trade was driven by our irrational desire for sugar. A lot of the sugar stuff was going on over there in the West India docks. And the modern slave trade is driven by our irrational desire for technology. So, like on this side, you've got old historic slavery, and on that side, you've got the contemporary banks. And half of them are the pricks who made their money running slaves. This is like that thing you do with the Eiffel Tower, except it's depressing. Oh, they've built a slavery museum over there, so I guess everything's okay, isn't it? But why are you listening to me? Who am I? Look at me. I wouldn't trust me. I wouldn't buy a sausage roll off myself. All I know is the simple reason that slavery exists is because of consumerism, where we buy shit that we don't need in order to feel better. And that doesn't even work. Consumerism isn't the default state we were born in. Christ didn't need to upgrade his fucking loincloth every year to remain fashionable. We don't all have to live in a yurt and make our jocks out of nettles, but we do have to take a little bit of personal responsibility. The giant corporations that are taking over the world, we need to hold these assholes to account. Don't let them get away with slavery because it's invisible. The assholes. Call out the corporate bollockses that are doing this so we can try and reduce the amount of blood that we have in our hands. And just be sound to each other. Are you still spoofing the Brits, you fraud? No matter where you are in the world, because at the end of the day, it's just us. Together.
Oh, very good. Virtue signalling. Ignore this bastard. The internet is amazing. Go on the dark web and buy orphans, credit cards and passports. Hire, manipulate the vulnerable for nothing. Take advantage of anyone you can, because they do the same to you and they piss on you while they're doing it. Hey, I can't swim. But you're literally a fish. Yeah, but I grew up in a fish farm.
Oh, what a problematic fish. I'm sure we've seen the last of him. Good luck, lads. Be sound.